Now, former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela has reiterated that amnesty is key to breaking the complicated web of state capture. The final chapter of the State Capture Commission report was recently released by Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Former President Jacob Zuma and former leaders of Eskom, Transnet, PRASA and other SOEs, as well as a myriad of politicians and corporates, have been implicated in state capture. To discuss, we're joined by Professor Thuli Madonsela, who is now the Stellenbosch University Law Trust Chair in Social Justice. Professor, thank you for being with us. You first called for an amnesty way back in 2020, I think it was, and there was a lot of debate then and some controversy. Has your thinking around how this should all work changed, or is it still the same?
Greetings, Francis, and to viewers. My thinking around state capture and amnesty for it hasn't changed. I'm even more convinced after the report of the State Capture Commission that to conclude this process and tie up all loose ends, we need amnesty.
You've been reported as saying the people who should get amnesty are individuals who played a small but significant role in state capture, which sounds somewhat paradoxical. So who exactly are you thinking of here?
The people who would have played small roles would include somebody who arranged meetings for those who were responsible for the grand scheme of state capture. It could also include people who played a clerical role in making things happen within, for example, the State Security Agency, PRASA, Eskom, SABC, DENL, and all of the other institutions that were at the core of the state capture criminal syndicate.
So they may not necessarily even be named in the Zondo Commission reports, but they may be out there sitting on information. You call them the foot soldiers, I believe.
Certainly, Francis. In fact, the people that I have in mind are primarily those who are not mentioned. And key to this suggestion is the thinking that those people who remain in the system remain vulnerable. They may, as we speak, be controlled by the masterminds of state capture, who are using information they have on them to say, if you don't do as we say, we're going to expose your role in state capture. And therefore, if we give them amnesty, we will be tying the cords of control between the people in the system and those that may be controlling them right now, and therefore continuing with the project of state capture.
All right, and then you say the spider web unravels, but I'd just like to mention one whistleblower who wasn't even involved in state capture, Athol Williams, regarding corporate involvement, the involvement of Bain. He says he had to flee for his life and nobody's going to give him a job. You say that if people are in the public service, they will have to resign. I mean, how do you provide an incentive? They may be in a hard position now, but people are worried about their pockets, paying for their bonds, paying for their lives. How do you incentivize someone like that to come forward?
That's a valid question. Possibly by making sure that they don't necessarily have to lose their jobs, but they would have to be rotated to make sure that you cut the bonds of the spider web. If somebody, for example, is currently at PRASA, then they would have to be moved somewhere else. If they're at the State Security Agency, they would have to be moved to a different place. But just to make sure that they don't continue with the criminal activities of state capture. But I know somebody who sent me a DM earlier suggested that they shouldn't be allowed to hold public office after that. I'm just worried that whatever we do should not de-incentivize people from giving us full disclosure.
And as it's been pointed out before, the TRC, that amnesty process, has almost been held up as an incentive to keep quiet, because we've seen very little prosecutions. So I'd love you to talk about the MPA here, because many South Africans are sitting, waiting, hoping that there will be action in terms of prosecutions. But we're even wondering if that will happen. And now you're saying the NPA presumably would be in charge of quite a complex amnesty process as well. Is there capacity for all of this?
There is capacity. Firstly, the amnesty process need not hold up the prosecution process. It should supplement it and not replace it. Regarding what happened with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the fact that we had the commission is not the reason why people have not been prosecuted. It's just failure to act. And this is where, for me, social accountability becomes important. That court of public opinion should stay engaged and not just disappear and randomly show up only when something big happens. We need to have a civil society program of action that will continuously push for action and continuously give us a report card on what has happened month to month and year on year.
Professor, if you don't mind, I'd like to change tack, because something that you were involved in, or you've been mentioned, it's blown up on social media, it's been reported on today. Many people coming out in your defense, like Musi Maimane, Pumzile van Dam, and that is after the daughter of Jacob Zuma, Duduzile Zuma, seemed to compare you to an animal online. She spoke about your nose as well and the president's. Are you outraged? We'd love to know. And do you see this as a form of racism, even though it comes from another black woman?
I am not outraged, but it is a form of racism, but it is internalized oppression. When people see themselves in a particular way, they tend to see others in that way. So in other words, I honestly do think that whatever Miss Zuma says is an expression of how she feels inside. And personally, I'm not outraged. I just feel sorry for her, because I honestly think she needs help.
And you tweeted what you say or do to others as a reflection of who you are and what you are. So you're not planning to take any action, civil, legal action?
I really would be wasting my time. I honestly think she needs help, and help is not going to come from me suing her. It will have to come from people who can assist her to interrogate how she feels about life, how she feels about things she has done that have alienated her from her own soul, and just reconcile herself with her own soul. And that's not going to be done by me. I'm not God.
All right, thank you very much. Professor Thuli Madonsela, the Stellenbosch University Law Trust Chair in Social Justice. We appreciate your time tonight.